Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So I was doing some testing with the Cleric Devout and its Divinity regeneration. You have a pool of 1,000 normally, which you spend to cast your heal powers, like Healing Word, Bastion, Cleansing Light, and Astral Shield, along with your at-will if you were to use it. Now I wanted to figure out what is the regeneration rate of that pool. How quick can you make it? Is it viable to improve, let's say, your Forte stat? Forte says it will give added Divinity regeneration, but how much, and is it worth trying to make a build to stack that? Additionally, you have the power Divine Glow with Divinity regeneration, and then the ability of Cycle of Prayer to also give you more Divinity regen. And then across all the healers, you have a headpiece you can use called Divine Muse that will also give you extra regeneration. You can upgrade this to Mythic to give you 20%. So yeah, I've done a whole bunch of testing, and what I can determine for you guys is that you will regenerate your Divinity every 3 seconds. So when you're in combat here and you've cast some powers that use your Divinity, you can see exactly how much it's generating back up. And you get a burst every 3 seconds. You will have a base Divinity regeneration of 10 per second, so that's 30 every 3 seconds. Now on the Cleric, the particular power Divine Glow with its Divinity regeneration will actually just add separately to that. So when you use it, you will gain Divinity separately every 3 seconds while you have it in effect. You can see that just here, gaining the 30 Divinity every 3 seconds amongst our other Divinity regeneration every 3 seconds. And so yes, it will give you 30 Divinity on your initial cast as soon as you activate it, and then every 3 seconds following that another 30 Divinity for the 12 seconds. So it's a total of 150 Divinity regeneration. And then we tested the Cycle of Prayer and the Divine Muse from the helmet. We end up with this neat table here where we can see the different Divinity regeneration sources. We can adjust their values, and then we can compare like one build to another build. So your base Divinity regen is 30. That won't change unless you go to Arbiter, then it becomes a 15. But Forte will affect that Divinity regen, and the exact math from that is right up here. You can see your Forte, it's 1 plus Forte divided by 2, that being Forte in the percentage form there. And you can see if we went from, let's say, 50% Divinity to 90% Divinity, then we would have a total of 11% gain there. But that is including these other sources. The exact math behind how Forte affects your Divinity is 1% Forte is 0.05 Divinity per second. This getting slightly adjusted depending on what other buffs you have. If you have that Divine Muse and Cycle of Prayer stacks, that will affect the amount you gain through Forte. If we set all of these values to 0 here, you can see the total gain of 40% Forte from 50% to 90% is only a 10% Divinity gain. Yeah, that's pretty small for a whopping 40% stats. But if you do have Divine Muse, you can see that goes up again really slightly with also the Cycle of Prayer by like 1%. So that ultimately means do not go out of your way to stack Forte instead of your true healing stats, your power, your outgoing healing, your critical strike and critical severity. It is not worth it when you only gain like a maximum 11% gain. Now with the Divine Muse, this stacks separately to your base regen, Forte, multiplying there that extra 20%. However, it is added with Cycle of Prayer. Basically, one stack of Cycle of Prayer will give you 4% extra Divinity gain, where again this is the formula, and each prayer stack would be 6.666% per stack. So you could gain 24%, and that is where you see like 4 stacks of Cycle of Prayer is better than your Divine Muse. It's just you will have to take 12 seconds in order to actually get your Cycle of Prayer to max. So using this calculator, we can deduce that stacking Forte is not really a priority when you already have, let's say, 50% and you have the option to go to 90%, since it's only 11% gain. Getting the Divine Muse is very beneficial, as if we were to miss that, we would miss out on nearly 11% divinity gain. Having the helmet with Divine Muse also isn't that big of a deal. You can see the difference is only nearly 11% divinity gain. And if you only have it on, let's say, legendary, it's even less, just over 5%. This is adjusted slightly if you aren't using like Cycle of Prayer. You can see the 10% will become a 6.5%, and that 20% would become a 12.28%. It's worth it to use that helmet when you basically have your stats anyway with the helmet as well. But it's not something you want to take when you're struggling to get power and outgoing healing maxed out. And otherwise, it's a lot of work to get that helmet. And if you do miss it, it's not the end of the world either. Now, the ultimate question is, should you actually use Divine Glow? Should you maybe use Exalt instead? Well, first of all, if you don't need the added divinity from Divine Glow, then of course take Exalt. It's going to increase your heals. Exalt will only help you with divinity regen, and if you aren't struggling with that, then there's no problem. And also having the added heal from Exalt can mean you're also spending less divinity because each of your heal over times is more impactful. But nonetheless, at base, Divine Glow will give you like 30% divinity gain. If you have the Divine Muse helmet, you can see that gets overall decreased a bit down to 26%. And if you have the Cycle of Prayer stacks, that gets reduced even more, because the more bonuses you have for divinity regen, the less effective they are based on that formula. Using this math here, you can also see that like to get full divinity, you take like 42 seconds versus 54 seconds. You'd be able to cast a Bastion every 5.4 seconds versus 4.2 seconds. There is one thing to keep in mind though with this formula. If you put Divine Glow's cooldown to 0, you're going to end up with an error and you're not going to have any math here. That is because when you divide anything by 0, you get an error. I wasn't able to figure out a handy way yet to work around this, but you'd want to just, manually put 0 there, and there you go, you'd get it. And if you want to put that back, you need to copy the formula of 150 divided by the value that is up here. And if this is not 0, then it will work. Otherwise, alternatively, you can just put this at like an infinite value that's so high that it equates and rounds to 0, and thus it would not be impacting it, because that is equating to the cooldown being super long and thus the power not giving you much. So that's 2 ways you can work around that. I'll put a link in the video description below where you can access this for yourself. However, you will not be able to edit the spreadsheet. You will have to download it for yourself and then either upload it to Google Sheets or open it on Excel in order to edit it. If I allow you guys to edit this directly, well, that'll become a mess. You'll have multiple people trying to edit it at once and nobody will be able to use it properly. So hopefully this helps you clerics out there of what to go for, what's the best to take for getting that divinity back nice and quickly. Raising your ceiling by 150 does not change your rate at which you gain divinity. It just allows you to have a little bit more burst heal. It's basically 1.5 bastions worth, since that's 150 extra stored and bastions 100. So if you want me to do this for Paladin, Warlock and Bard, just let me know. Massive thank you again to all these channel members for their added support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.